Soulful Conversation. I'm Charlotte McGinnis, and as always, I am thrilled that you choose to join me here either live or later at your convenience. Either way, thank you. And if you feel inspired to share this, please do so. We're available on Facebook, YouTube, and my website. It comes through live as well, charlottemcginnis.com. Well, we have Sandy, our guest from last week. I see Sandy's already on here. Hey, Sandy, you did a terrific job last week, and everyone really enjoyed it. And I know we're in for another treat today. Every one of these is a treat, and I always enjoy the feedback that I get from people. They really enjoy this because, and I enjoy it too, because I get to know people that I do know or don't know at a deeper level, and I get to share how awesome they are with the world. So isn't that wonderful? So today I am delighted. I don't know this woman in person, but I put out a call to our ministers in the Alliance of Divine Love, anyone who's interested in being a guest on the show. I said, come and do it, and we'd love to have you. And that being said, Stacey said, I'd love it. And I said, great. So I've gotten to know Stacey a little bit through the process. We've had some interactions and conversations, and wow, what a story. And we're in for a real treat today. So Stacey and Diane, I thank you for this if you're watching. Stacey Piedrahita, I could not pronounce this actually, but I was told Diane Baker yesterday, I said, Diane, I can't pronounce this girl's name. What am I going to do? She said, now she broke it down for me, and she said, now say this, say this. And here we are, Piedrahita. So Stacey Piedrahita, welcome. Glad you're here.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. I'm excited about this.
Well, we're going to have fun. And I know that Sandy, who was here last week, she had actually said that she was a little nervous. And usually that's the case. People come up, they say, I'm a little nervous. I don't know what to do. And then at the end, they say, boy, that wasn't bad at all. Because really, all we do is just have a conversation, like we're just talking to each other as friends and getting to know each other. And that's what we do. So I'm going to tell everybody a little bit about you, and then we're going to go a little deeper into who you are, what's your mission, and all that good stuff. So Stacey was a former oncology nurse, nursing educator, and Reiki master. She's dedicated the rest of her life to serve God in a way that nourishes her soul for the first time in her life, and is leaving all of that behind. And I appreciate that so much, Stacey, because that you're doing what nurtures your soul. And we'll get into that in a little more depth in a few minutes. But I think that so often we feel obligated to do this because someone else wants us to do it or whatever. But we're going to talk about that in a minute. Well, the ministry had been calling Stacey ever since her life-altering accident 5 years ago, and she just never acknowledged it. It wasn't until a debilitating accident in 2022 left her disabled and chronically ill that she took advantage of being a housebound and pursued her ministerial studies while growing closer to God. She decided to take a leap of faith and join the Alliance of Divine Love, and after fate intervened, excuse me. After becoming ordained last October, she continues to let God lead the way. She's learning to adapt to living life while navigating her disabilities. She's determined to pursue her doctoral degree with ADL sometime in the future. Right now, she's just focused on being an ambassador for God. While she continues to heal, sharing her divine love with the world through her laughter, writing, and so welcome, Stacey. It's so great to have you here. And I love, your story is amazing. You were an oncology nurse. You've got quite a rich past of everything. You're a Reiki master. You were an oncology nurse. You taught nursing. And then you had this calling, but it was actually even before your major accident. But I think the universe had been trying to get your attention for quite some time, because it's, let's see, you were You had lupus and RA, rheumatoid arthritis, in 2018. You had some issues with breast implants in 2021. And then finally in 2022, you finally got the message. So what would you like to bring to this conversation about that?
But I'm
Or
truly not an idiot. I'm just stubborn.
yeah,
Yeah, God has been calling me for a while, and I can be a testimony to saying if it's God's will, his will be done. Like thy will be done. And
hmm,
I kept pushing it away, because I'm like, why the hell are you calling me?
yeah, yeah,
I'm the biggest hot mess in the world. I said, are you kidding me? But yet, it just happened in a way that is so batshit crazy, but it's my journey, and it's a beautiful journey of how God intervenes.
exactly. Well, and Stacey, you and I live by the same model, and that is thy will be done. And as we talked yesterday and in your notes to me, you said you just let God lead the way and you follow. And I think that's so important because I know that in my own life, after many years of really just trying to push that boulder uphill and do it on my own,
Yeah.
it's much easier if you just let go. And really, God knows what our true will and desires are. And if we just trust that, the good stuff comes, right?
Amen. But this
Yeah.
is the first year I let go. So it took 56 years because I just turned 56 to finally be like, I got it. Thank you. I got it. I'm good. I'm just surrendering, and you lead the way.
Yeah, well, I
Better
guess
late than never.
it takes what it takes, right? So, but you've been dabbling in this for a while because, it's not like you weren't doing spiritual work because you were.
Yeah.
But being an oncology nurse, that's spiritual work. That's God work in a huge way. And so whether or not you labeled it or could define it as such, I mean, that's tough work. And how did you get into oncology nursing?
So this is a crazy story, and never tell God your plans because he truly will laugh at them. Because when I graduated nursing school, I said there were two things I would never do: oncology and pediatrics. I wanted to do maternity. I don't know why. So it wasn't until my best friend's father passed away from lung cancer. I was actually in the hospital with them. It was the first time I actually watched someone pass away. And up until this point, I was doing per diem nursing. I was working maybe one shift a week, a month. I was very fortunate. I was raising my kids at the time. So when I watched him pass away, I left the room and I sat outside, and I just sat there and I just started crying. And all of a sudden I heard oncology nurse, and I'm like, I don't think so. And I couldn't turn that voice away. I couldn't. So when we moved to North Carolina, I took a chance. I was offered a job on the IV team, which I love putting in IVs. That's the only thing I love doing as a nurse. Everything else I couldn't stand. I,
Oh,
I loved
wow.
putting I loved putting in IVs and talking to my patients because you I just love that. So I was offered a job on the oncology floor or on the IV team, and I took a chance. It changed my life in so many ways. It taught me compassion. And it actually saved my life because during this time, my son was going through suicidal attempts. It was a horrible, horrible time for me and my family. And it took me out of my real world, and I was able to focus on other people, and it truly saved my life because my clients were my family, my patients. So
Wow, wow. Well, that it takes a special person to do that, and I spend a lot of time for some reason going to the hospital with friends, and I've had a lot of my friends this past few years need hospital care for one reason or another, and every time I go, I just appreciate the nurses so much, and I know how hard it must be, and how they keep smiling, and how they can be so loving, and just it's remarkable to me. So it is a very holy profession, whether you realize it or not at the time. And you got into teaching as well. Was that something that came after, or?
Oh my, actually, no, the teaching was before. The teaching is, I was doing that when we lived in the Midwest, again, once a month. I loved it because I love watching the light bulb go off. I love being present when someone is like that aha moment. And with nursing, I always called them my little ducklings, and watching them grow, not being able to walk into a patient's room, introducing themselves. See, at the end of the semester, taking a few patients, it was life-changing for me. But I unfortunately made a choice to go back for my master's. And then I was offered a job on the IV team, and I'm like, oh, this shit. It was a lot. It wasn't easy. I didn't want to, I wasn't ready to challenge myself. So I took the job. I couldn't continue because I didn't go for my master's, and it was a requirement. So.
Right, right. Well, I'm sure your students, or whatever you call them, your little chickadees, were blessed to have you. And so, where does Reiki, and when did you start doing the spiritual work?
Oh God, this is funny. Well, so in 2018, I ended up in the hospital for 5 days. And this was truly when I had a first sense of feeling God in my life, because I'd never felt God before. And something changed in me that hospital stay. I came home. I was bedridden for a couple of months, and I prayed for God to just take me. I was depressed. I was sad. I was really struggling. Really, really struggling. And someone brought up Reiki. And actually, it was in the hospital. I'm like, get out of here. I didn't have an open mind back then. I was like, I knew everything. And I'm like, get away from that horseshit woo crap. No,
Yeah,
thank you.
yeah,
So a friend called me, and she said, I have a friend who's offering a free Reiki session virtual. Free? I'll take it. Okay.
yeah,
So
yeah.
I had an open mind, and the whole time I was on the bed lying flat, and I had my phone in my hand, and I'm like, what are you doing? What am I supposed to do? I could not relax at all. She's like, just calm. The energy, all this energy. And I'm like, what are you saying? I could not get into it. So I chalked it up as, you know what? I'm glad I didn't pay for that. And that was it. Again, that voice that I learned to trust said, you need to Google Reiki now. Okay. So I Googled Reiki near me, and a practitioner popped up like maybe a mile down the road. And again, I had been recovering from the 5 days in the hospital. I wasn't doing well. Doctors didn't know what was wrong with me because I hadn't been diagnosed yet with lupus or RA. So they were like, we don't know. Um, so I was able to get an appointment the following week. So I walk into her office for the first time. And if I can tell you, it was almost like heaven had opened up, and blessings upon the love, whatever I felt was just magical and just so huge. I couldn't explain it. It was a feeling of peace that had come over me that to this day, I was like, that was some amazing stuff. So I had my first Reiki treatment. And for 6 weeks after that first Reiki treatment, I was not sad. I was not depressed. I was like flying on a cloud. I'm like,
Mm.
I don't know what this shit is. I said, but I would like more, please.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
I ended up having more Reiki sessions, and it wasn't until when I had my implants removed, then I started getting very serious about Reiki and seeing how I could heal myself. So, and that was really the only reason. So I became a Reiki practitioner after that. It healed me immensely. I Reiki pretty much everything now. It's like I'm a huge believer in energy healing right now, and I'm definitely like, I was completely Western medicine.
Mhm.
I'm now, give me the woo woo. Give me more of the woo woo, please.
Yeah, well, that leads to my next question, and you sort of led into it. Is yeah, I too am a Reiki master. I
Oh,
believe in it. Yeah, and I definitely believe in the power of energy healing. I mean, everything is energy, everything's vibrational, and I tend to lean very far towards holistic measures for healing, and
yeah.
really asking God for guidance. And I've luckily found a practitioner, actually our main practitioner for our health needs is a nurse practitioner, not even a doctor, really. No, she's not a doctor. And her philosophy is, really big into, what we put into our bodies, uh, supplementation, prayer, and exercise. And, if we can there's so much we can do to prevent illness. And so how did you, I do believe there's a place for both too. I don't throw out the baby with the bathwater. I mean, I definitely know there's wonderful ways Western medicine can help us. But what are your thoughts about that? You said you've gone very far the other way. How have you bridged the two, or have you, or?
I'm still learning. After I had my breast implants removed, I had a near-death experience. I went into a complete radical remission from lupus, from RA. I came off all meds. Very, very holistic. I believed in Reiki, what you were saying, what I'm putting into my body, laughter, gratitude, positivity. I was doing everything right. And I swore I would never take another drug again, another pharmaceutical. And unfortunately now, my nervous system is so jacked up. I'm on 2 heart medications. I'm on a corticosteroid inhaler every day. So I'm now dependent on the meds I swore I would never take. So I'm learning, again, it took getting knocked down to complete rock bottom, but there's a place for Western medicine.
Right.
I believe more people need to learn about holistic healing. I believe more people have to realize that God lives in you and can heal whatever hurts you. That is my
Yeah.
story. Like
Right.
don't tell me God can't heal you. And I'll be like, I've got 7,000 examples of how he will.
Yes, amen. And I think we jump, people just want to take the easy way out. They just go to the doctor, give me a pill for this. And I run as far as I can, but I certainly appreciate it too. But we haven't even gotten to the final crescendo episode of 2022 and your camping incident. I'll let you tell the story.
So unfortunately, after when was I diagnosed? I was diagnosed after the lupus and RA went into remission. Everything was great. And then I got diagnosed with mast cell activation disease. My body is very, very sensitive to anything triggering, scents, perfume, food. So I have to be very, very careful, with what I'm doing. And we discovered that when I was in the woods, I would not have a reaction. And I reacted to my carpet. I reacted to my dog, like my husband's body wash. I was reacting to everything. And so we ended up going camping. And we went camping a lot. We love to overland as well. And I would just feel better when I was camping. So we were actually in the mountains in North Carolina. And we went with 5 other, a caravan of our camping buddies, and we had just arrived at the campsite. It was a hip camp, someone's property, beautiful, beautiful property. And as soon as we got there, I saw up on the hill was like a petting zoo. And so of course I running up the hill. And as soon as I hear screaming, don't touch, I touch, I fall to the ground, and I will remember the feeling to the rest of my life. And I screamed. My husband comes running, and all I remember is my heart to this day still feels like there's a bear chasing me. We're still not able to regulate, being in fight or flight. So what happened is I refused to go to the hospital. I probably should have, but
It
again,
was an electric fence. Yeah. I,
but we're in the middle of the backwoods of I really, I wasn't comfortable going to a hospital. I have severe PTSD from medical trauma. So unless I'm physically dying, I'm not going to the ER. And I was able to calm myself down. But the rest of the trip, that pain was there and I didn't feel good. Like something instantly changed. And so we were gone for about 4 or 5 days. I wasn't happy the whole trip. I was just miserable. I didn't feel good. And then I went to the day we got home, my girlfriend said, you need to go to urgent care. And I'm like, so I ended up going to urgent care. Everything looked fine. But at this time, I was teaching Zumba. And all of a sudden, I'm teaching and I'm like, I can't breathe. I have shortness of breath. Something is wrong here. And again, I've been through so much medical crap. I know my body. I know what's wrong. I did not feel good at all. And so that was a year and a half ago. Unfortunately, I've gotten to the point where I have a good hour or two a day. Some days I'm stuck in bed. It depends. I look healthy. I look like I'm feeling great. But if you knew what it took to get me here, like afterwards I'm gonna crash. I'm gonna, it's a lot. But yeah, so God's still working on healing, but I'm managing as best as I can.
Well, I look at everything serves a purpose, right? And I do believe there's no mistakes. Chance plays no part in God's plan. And what's coming to me is this quiet time is a blessing for you to really be still and be with God, and to be guided and led to your next place.
Yep.
And you've already done so. When I was looking back, you have accomplished much, and you're a mother, and you've done all these wonderful things. But I still feel that your best years are yet to come, as far as what your holy purpose is. And it's so just I would suggest maybe just be patient in the process, which I think you are. I mean, I'm sure it's not fun on certain days, but you had mentioned you volunteer. Tell us a little bit about your volunteer services. You were was it the homeless shelter you told
Mhm.
me? Is that it?
Yeah, one of the women's shelters. Well, unfortunately, that was before the electric shock. I can't volunteer anymore. But what I was doing was I was going once a week every Thursday, and I was teaching them meditation. I was teaching them about EFT, which is tapping.
Mm-hmm.
Just different ways to calm, calm down.
Mm-hmm.
And it was such a blessing because it's almost like every time I would go, it was like, God was leading what to do, what to say, how to calm these women down, what techniques, you know for them. It was just an amazing time in my life because I felt like I was on purpose. And I think that's what led to my Reiki business. I wanted to do this all the time. I wanted to introduce Reiki to everyone, but I ended up doing way too much, and I don't do well with people that don't want to take accountability for their own shit,
Mm-hmm. Yeah, yeah. Well, you got to have a partner in the healing for sure.
but and the excuses. So it's like it it wasn't my path. So now I'm just like, where do you want me to go now, God?
Yeah, yeah. Well, and
Resting.
that will be revealed, and I'm excited to see where that takes you, because I know it's going to be awesome. Now, let me back up just a bit. You had, said obviously just listening to your story, God's been poking at your window for a long time. You said you were raised Jewish, right? Were you in a religious Jewish home, or is this your
Orthodox. Yeah.
Orthodox? Oh, wow. So tell us about that. That's another fascinating uh, aspect of your life.
So I was raised, I was born in Philly and I lived in New Jersey for a couple of years. And my nanny and poppy, my beloved grandparents, are Holocaust survivors, and they
Mm.
were very, kosher. And I went to Hebrew school, and we did everything right. We had the big family. And then when I was 9 years old, we moved to Las Vegas, and so I that went out the window. That pretty, the whole Judaism, learning about religion, there was no structure. But when I was back home, every Sunday we got together, and it was a wonderful, wonderful upbringing until, like I said, until we moved to Las Vegas, and it was like, where's the structure?
Yeah. Wow. Well, I'm sure some seeds were planted there, and I love the Jewish faith and the all aspects of it, and I find it very interesting. I was a former golf instructor, and the clubs where I used to teach in New York and Florida well, the ones in New York were actually Jewish clubs. I mean, and it was I was like, well, that's interesting. There's actually Jewish clubs, because I grew up we're all just sort of one melting pot in West Virginia. We all just play
Yeah.
golf in the same place. But I definitely learned to appreciate so much of the faith and how they lived, and the Orthodox weren't so much a part of the people. They were not the ones I'd necessarily worked with, but a few of them were. But and my niece, who's 18, on her own volition, she discovered Judaism and converted
Oh,
just
wow.
last year. And I think, and she loves it. And it was a positive force in her life. So I definitely, I know that planted its seeds, and it sounds like your grandparents were beautiful souls. And
Oh, God, yeah.
wow, what a coming out of the Holocaust. I cannot
I have
even.
their heart. I have, if it wasn't for my nanny and poppy and the gifts I was given after my NDE, I mean, they got me through the past couple of years, you
Wow.
know, through heaven, communicating, but their heart, I mean, and the amazing part about my nanny and poppy is it's so funny because my poppy never spoke about it, but my
Mm-hmm.
nanny did all the time. And it's like just seeing, looking back now, how they handled, how I was raised, how my mother was raised because of the Holocaust. I mean, that I can't think of anything worse that anyone could survive. And they were just the most beautiful, loving people. Right before they died, they were both gambling a week before their death, going to the casinos at 85. I mean, everyone knew my nanny and poppy, and it's like it's a
Wonderful.
blessing to have them.
Wow. Wow. So how do you said your nanny, or yeah, your nanny was spoke of it and your poppy chose not to, and that's not unusual, but where do you think how did they find the ability to forgive and to move on with their lives? Because a lot of people, when these things happen, they are not able to pull out of it.
My poppy was able to forgive. My nanny, unfortunately, held those horrible, horrible wounds um, until the day she died. Unfortunately, she was not able to. So, throughout my lifetime, I remember some of the things that I was taught. That looking back now, I'm like, oh my God, that is so wrong. But I was able to go back and say, okay, if God forbid I was in their shoes, how would I have handled a situation? But yeah, I mean, I went to see Schindler's List with my nanny. That
Yeah.
was probably one of the most emotional days of my life because I just, seeing the pain that these beautiful, innocent people had to go through it was too much. So, a lot was blocked out. I don't
Mhm.
remember a lot of what I was told. I believe my nanny, she had a lot of health issues, and that's probably why she never talked about it because that back then you had to
Right.
keep it all inside. But my poppy was like, nope, he would just,
Yeah.
crazy
It's
attitude.
interesting. Yeah, attitude, and it's interesting, well, and being coming from Western to holistic perspective, in holistic medicine or spiritual medicine, they say that all illness, and I think Louise Hay was the one who brought this
Love her.
so much to our face, is that really, and now the more recent Bradley Nelson, who's the energy code, emotion code, that sickness is trapped emotions.
Yep.
So we have to,
Amen.
and we have to, if we don't let them out,
They'll
then
kill us.
yeah, they will kill us ultimately in the end. So it's, and we all, and I'm not diminishing anything that she did or did not do, because that literally is probably one of the most horrific experiences known to humanity, for sure. Yeah.
Yep.
So, well, so you've got all these great experiences, the great the beautiful grandparents, and living in Vegas, and raising kids, and being a nurse and teaching a nurse, and then all these sicknesses that were really just knocks on the door, and you're now an ordained minister. And so do you have any vision or goals of what the future holds for you? How do you see yourself?
So, my God, that's such a hard one because I see myself so differently than I did a month ago. I'm constantly growing. I'm constantly evolving. I'm constantly walking closer to God in my faith. And it's like, I want to be the example of what God can do for someone who is so broken. Like I have been so brutally broken that there are days I'm like, I can't believe I'm still smiling. And then I'm like, that's God. Like God has put forgiveness in my heart. And I want to teach people that you don't have to be a victim. You don't have to be live a lifetime based on your circumstances. You choose, you choose if you want to walk with God or if you don't,
Yeah.
and I just want to show people that it's a miracle. Like God's healing is miraculous. It's magical. It's like, I couldn't put it in words, but this is not the God I was told about when I was
Mhm.
raised. So
Right.
it's like, I want to bring my God, a God of my own understanding, to other people and give people options that are so burnt out on religion and their rules. Come
Mm-hmm.
over on the spiritual side, kind of mix it a little bit. I think religion has a good basis, all based on love and kindness and compassion. I don't know
Mm-hmm.
where the hell everyone went wrong,
Yeah, exactly.
but maybe be the bridge for that and be like, oh, this crazy ass chick was a hot mess, and look what God has done to her.
That's right. Look at that. It's a miracle. But you allowed yourself to listen. And it's like you said, it's a decision, it's a choice, and we can turn away from it and or we can tune in and pay attention. And it takes what it takes. And you're an example of that as well. You weren't so willing to let go of the reins, but finally, uh, for lack of a better way to say it, you were brought to your knees, and that's what
Yeah.
it takes. But I've always heard it said that when you meet people who are doing really holy work, doing they didn't get there with a life of ease and grace. I mean, there's been a lot of ups and downs and challenges, and that's how we learn, and that's what puts us in a position to do the work. So you are a shining example of that. So, well, Stacey, is there anything before we wind down you'd like to tell the group, or is there anything I left out, or what would you like to close with?
Um, I've been studying the Bible for the past couple of years, just trying to have it make sense, and it never made sense. But I had a funny story the other day, because when I get, downloads from Spirit, all of a sudden I hear Jeremiah. So I don't know if you remember the movie Footloose.
Oh
Remember the
yeah.
Bible scene? I'm like, Jeremiah, what did Jeremiah do? Who was Jeremiah? Looking at that, but it's like, I'm just excited. And I feel that, they say that's the best book in the world to read. I never could. I was always forced to read it. I tried to read it. I had to get a teen Bible because I couldn't understand it. But for the first time in my life, that book is calling me. And it's like,
Mhm.
I'm just excited to see where that's going to lead me. And I'm just loving the stories. And again, this wasn't the Bible I was taught about. So I'm learning brand new things, and to me, it's just an incredible way to go through life. Incredible
Wow.
way.
Well, and you're just going to keep tuning in and listening, and I can tell you that as we uh, tune in spiritually, every time I look back and read spiritual readings, either whether it be the Bible or really any spiritual teachings, as I change, so does my relationship with that teaching change. So, and that's the beauty of, I think, our spiritual evolution. So uh, I really appreciate you taking the time to join us today, Stacey. You're a remarkable person. Thank you for reaching out and saying you were interested, because you're amazing. And I'm sure everybody was touched and inspired and will be from hearing you speak. Some listen live and most tune in at their convenience. But I'm sure your light will permeate lots of hearts out here. So thank you so much.
Namaste. Thank you for having me.
Oh, you too, dear. Thank you. Namaste.